I Want to Jump Like Dee Dee, with me, Giles Sibbald, is the music podcast that does music a bit differently. I'm talking to some incredible musicians, DJs and producers about how they use an experimental mindset to fuel their own creativity, pursue new challenges, overcome fears, bounce back from mistakes. Okay, so the early 80s for me was when I sort of first became aware of that little old thing called identity. It's like that thing that when you've seen it, you can't really unsee it. It's always there, gnawing away at you. And music was obviously like a massive part of that identity search. And the early 80s gave me the chance to, kind of like experiment with clothes, which are usually pretty atrocious, and music, obviously, the stuff that's still with me today, and stuff that was probably, as atrocious as my clothes. And the Belle Stars were part of that identity searching for me. They formed in 1980 when the Bodysnatchers disbanded. They looked and sounded fantastic. They were sort of fabulous, really sort of out there clothes. Mine extended to like a, sort of secondhand combat jacket and unacceptable DMs. And the music sort of fused this whole host of sounds.
Everybody wore DMs then.
I know. Mine were really unacceptable.
With a this, with that H, everything went in the 80s. Yeah.
they fused this sort of like a whole host of sounds and influences that this kind of narrow-minded punk rock hardcore kid found really sort of fascinating, exciting stuff. That there was other stuff going on like Adam and the Ants, Bow Wow Wow, Redskins, ACR, Visage, stuff like that. The Belle Stars toured a lot, on headlining stuff on their own, as well as supporting the Clash, the Police, Madness, Stray Cats, and they released a real bunch of memorable singles, including Hiawatha, Iko Iko, The Clapping Song, and of course, Sign of the Times. The lead singer of the Belle Stars was, and a few others.
Yeah, we did Indian Summer, we did 80s Romance, and there was Mockingbird. It's quite a few.
Yeah. So obviously the lead singer of the band was of course Jennie Bellestar, and after the group split, she launched into a life of music projects and challenges, fashion, poetry, writing, and community activism projects, and it's been a real roller coaster life. And I'm really excited that Jennie's agreed to come on and talk about how her mindset has guided her through life. So Jennie, welcome, and thank you again for coming on. I'm really excited to have you here.
You're most welcome.
Brilliant.
Most welcome.
So
we missed it, didn't we? If I hadn't gone onto Facebook,
I know.
Not Giles. Sorry.
It's me. I know. I'm here. I'm here.
A second ago, Giles. It's like everyone's doing something, and because of all the things that are going on around us right now, I'm talking about the geopolitical realm. It's just, my goodness me, everything's just so busy, as well as your own personal stuff, So,
well, yeah. Do sometimes you start to think, well, actually, how do I manage to actually get to live my life, live a sort of like do all the sort of personal admin stuff that seems to just increase so much by the day. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't even know if I've done that though, Charles. The personal stuff, like the admin stuff, that's on the side, which I really, it's like a catch-up job, and then the rest of it is just full on, hands-on, and every day is another day. Do you know what I mean? To see if you can actually win the war on that, of like whittling it down. I have what do you call those things? To-do lists every day.
God,
that I didn't do the whole thing, so I had to then do a catch-up, and so all my own personal stuff gets left on the wayside. So
I think with like to-do lists, I've like through my life, I've always just sort of winged it, tried to sort of manage without them, because I'm not a good list writer, and also when I see stuff that's on there that's not crossed off, it just depresses the shit out of me, So I kind of I stopped doing. But as I've got older, like my memory is getting worse, and I'm like, I really need to start writing stuff down.
Hello, this is what I'm saying. I'm telling you now. Yeah. There's a word for that. Was it? A short pencil is wiser than a long memory.
That's very true, actually. Yeah, no, I like that. I'm going to remember. No, once you wrote
it's in my book. That one. I've written a book, by the way, since I last spoke to you. You didn't mention that one, did you?
I didn't. No, but we were going to talk about it.
This is new rock and roll, by the way. Cup of tea.
Oh, cup of tea, totally.
It used to be
I'm
like
with you
that,
on
but
that. I'm with you on
yeah,
that.
with oat milk. No, lovely. Now we're talking. So that shows our age then, Giles, you know, that we're sitting here with a cup of tea having an interview, darling. You know what
It
I mean?
does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. 54 years old.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're a youngster. You're a
So what?
spring chicken.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you were sort of when you started out in the Belle Stars, I mean, I would be 12, 13
Oh,
then.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you liked
Yeah.
our music.
I did.
What was wrong
Right
with
at
you?
the.
You should have gone to the hospital. I'm only kidding. We have quite a few followers, and they never forget those times. They always talk about the 80s, and in actual
Yeah.
fact, I do an awful lot of retro stuff,
Mm,
80s retro stuff. And funny, we should talk about retro.
mm.
There's a guy called. Do you remember a guy called Mike Reed?
The DJ.
Yeah, the DJ.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Absolutely, I do.
he's
Yeah.
just had the most amazing idea. I think it's brilliant. These days, the like people, you know, the radio stations that we used to have the hits on, of course, they don't want the old pop stars anymore. They want all the new shiny things. Fair enough, that's what they do. But there has to be a place for all those people that did actually have those hits in those days. And because these people shouldn't be shoved underneath the carpet, they're actually
Mm,
still writing songs,
yeah.
and the songs that they write, I'd imagine, would have far more, far more substance than they did when they were first going out writing, purely
Yeah.
because of their experiences in life. So
Totally.
surely there should be a platform for them. Well, Mike had the a brilliant idea
Mm.
that he'd create this thing called the Heritage Chart. It's
Okay.
my understanding anyway, and the whole ethos of it all is that they get the older artists again that have been still writing and don't seem to get any airplay anymore. He
Yeah.
gives them the airplay. He's got his own radio station called Downforce Radio, really good, and he
Yeah.
gives them the platform in which to have their music played, and then they get votes on their songs, and they go up in this thing called the Heritage Chart, which is, to my mind, based on Top of the Pops. It's brilliant.
Brilliant.
And I'm on
Absolutely.
it. Ha!
And you're on it. Are you top?
22 in the charts, my darling.
You're 22.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Are you 22 and moving up, I hope?
Moving up.
Brilliant.
Well, I moved up from eight places last week, so I guess that's moving up. Yeah. Yeah.
That's going really sort of retro and old school, isn't it? It's like the excitement of those.
It's great. It's quite exciting. Yeah, it's quite exciting.
That was one of the most exciting sort of times, was listening to those sort of weekly charts and seeing if your favourite stuff had either sort of come in, where it had come in, and stuff that you like, where it was moving up and stuff like that. It was just like a ritual.
Yeah, well, can you imagine what it's like for the artists?
Totally, yeah.
Because you wait for the time. Did we go up? Did we go down?
Yeah.
I remember a time. I can't remember the name of the DJ. Very old school Radio 1 DJ, and we were in Japan, and it had taken me 3 days to get to sleep because of the jet lag. It was just such a culture shock.
Yeah.
Just got to sleep and I got this phone call. It's bloody Radio 1, right? And I'm like, whoa, what does it feel like to be number such and such in the charts? And I was like, who the hell are you? I'm trying to get some sleep here. He says, also still be careful, we're live on air. I was like, oh, no one told me, and then I was trying to, I could have killed him. I could have killed him. Anyway, it was fun. It was great. And I was really, we were really happy. So it happened whilst we were in Japan. So, yeah.
I think you're right as well about that. I mean, it's like kind of a thing that I'm sort of interested in is this sort of, at the moment we've got I think probably like the highest number of generations that are alive at, sort of right now. I think it's something like 5.
Right.
And there's still like this kind of like generation gap, isn't there? And I think there are some certainly in music, there are some artists that are kind of bridging that, sort of really respectful of stuff that was going on in in the 80s and 90s, and sort of taking that and sort of transforming it into their modern version of it, which I really like.
I mean, there is a serious respect for 80s music by the youngsters, and I love all kinds of music by any age group. It doesn't matter what they are. I'm not a one-trick pony, never have been.
Yeah.
I mean, I was schooled with the Belle Stars, which did not rely on then just being ska music as the Bodysnatchers had done.
Yeah.
Not that there was anything wrong with that, but that was their time.
That was who they were.
And
Yeah.
that was great. But then you're stuck with the label. So when we then went to the Belle Stars, all things just started to change around about 1980. Then you had your new romantics, you had pop music, you had you had Come On Eileen, you had all these different tracks.
Yeah.
And so you were allowed to, you had a platform to play in that was just not so one stream. I mean, I love reggae, I love ska, I do it quite often. In fact, my track on the charts, so the heritage charts, is a reggae track that I wrote with a guy called Adrian Sherwood. Do you know him?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
He's my good friend. And so that's a reggae track. I'll always have it in my blood. I'm half Jamaican, so why wouldn't I? And it's a fun track. But during those times, we, as a Belle Stars, we were able to dip into any genre of music and try it out, and then so that's where I cut my teeth with those those styles and those kind of genres. And then of course we had loads of different fabulous producers coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Clive Langer and Alan Winstanley, but that was because we were on a record label that had Madness, and we were good friends of Madness. In fact, I went out with one of the guys for 7 years. Yeah. And so did one of the girls in the band. So it's a very incestuous business as well. That's to tell you the truth. Very incestuous. And so, so of course we were still doing a little bit of reggae, but then we were doing pop as well. And it was just such a great period of my life. I can't. When someone says to you, they start complaining, oh, they've got to be at top of the pops, to sitting around waiting. I just say, shut up.
Yeah.
You've got go and do it. You've got an audience out there. You're not flipping digging the road, are you? You're having a little bit of a glamorous life. Shut up.
Totally having fun. Yeah. I mean, with it's interesting. Like on the, I completely agree with you on the sort of genre thing. And how people, kind of bands and artists have got pigeonholed and sort of labeled, and we kind of like to do that as humans, and also I guess kind of like freeze of the industry as well. It's like easy if you're kind of like in the ska box, or if you're in the hip hop box or whatever. Yeah. But for the Belle Stars, totally. It was just like all these different kind of percussive instruments coming in.
We embraced every genre. I mean, we had what was the guy who's just recently died from Motown? Anyway, he produced, I think, one of our tracks. Then we had the guy that did I think Pete, I can't remember his name either, Pete something or other, but a lovely man again. And he produced another track of ours. And so they, one was soulful, one was reggae, one was this, one was that. And so we embraced it all. Yeah. And that gave us a chance to work with people that had different influences. Yeah. And Lamont Dozier.
Oh yeah.
Dozier's name, are you kidding me? And very fortunate to meet these wonderful genius producers and often are not like genius players as well. Because when I left the Belle Stars after that, it was too easy for me to go into with another with another project. I think one was Dance Like a Mother. Yeah. And I did it with me and my friend Melissa. Melissa used to be in the Modettes. Well, we created this thing called Dance Like a Mother, and we were sent to America to record it. Well, what a fantastic thing to do. And then the amount of people. Do you know a guy called Randy Jackson? Not from the Jackson 5, but from one of those programs that they do. It's a bit like the X Factor. Anyway, Randy Jackson, very cool guy. He's very, very famous out there. He was one of the producers at the time. Between him and Preston Glass, they knew everybody. Right. So having George Benson coming on your album was not even, wow. I mean, we did a cover called Private Number, which who was the guy that did, why am I forgetting all these names? Talk about losing your memory. Wonderful man. He did Green Onions. I can't remember his name.
Oh, from Booker T and the MGs.
That's the guy. Anyway, so Booker T. Right. So I said, we're doing somebody's cover. Don't you think we should ask them? So Preston says, oh yeah, great. Here's the number. Call him up. And I just said, no, I can't. He said, call him up. He'll love it. And so sure enough, I called up Booker T, and he said, oh, you sound so quaint. That's what he said. And he thought it was really sweet that I would call up and ask for permission. But I thought that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, know? Totally.
I just think it's like, we're English, so you've got to be a bit polite about all this kind of stuff. And he just thought it was really sweet. And then I got a chance to speak to Booker T. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, how did you find it with well, if we talk about the Belle Stars for a moment, just because of there were seven of you in the band, all with different, kind of backgrounds and upbringings and sort of ideas. So that kind of like coming together with that, almost like really open mindset, individually and collectively, is kind of quite impressive, really, isn't it?
Well, it is when there's 7 of you.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? I mean, some would take, pick up the gauntlet and write a main part and everything else, and then everybody would add their own personality and their own creativity and their own, just their own person to the, the selected part that they were, that they were strong with, and then that made the whole. And we were pretty fast at writing songs. We did have a kind of way about us in that way, and it was just something to behold. You see, everybody had a different influences. Leslie, she came in and she was really into funk, and Claire, she was into jazz and all these other things, and so we were the 3 new members that were brought in away from the Bodysnatchers. So of course we're going to add a different element to it. Now, if you think I'm the lead singer, now I'd never sung before in my life, by the way, before I joined the Belle Stars. It was by accident, but that I joined, and then but I always had my influences as being Motown, blues. I loved the blues when I was a kid. I was the only one in school that did. I loved glam rock. I loved it big time, so I was a bit of a 70s fan, and I also love 50s music. I love rock, I love rock and blues, so doo-wop, but all of those, they were always part of my blood, and it within my kind of like DNA now. Growing up, I would add a flavor of those influences into the fold of the Belle Stars.
I mean, I'm sure it's something that you've told, quite a lot, but, how did you actually, come to join the band? And I know you said you hadn't sung before.
I was told
how did you feel about that?
Well, first of all, I have 2 questions there. So how do I start? It's a fairy story. I'm going to try and keep it really concise. So there you are. I'm out in the pub, meet this girl. Didn't know her very well, but kind of like her. She's a nice person. She one day called me up and she said, "Jen, will you come and support me at this thing that I'm doing in Waterloo? I'm doing backing vocals." So I said, "Well, I kind of got a cold. I really don't ever want to go out and laryngitis and stuff." And she said, "I haven't got anybody else to invite, and you're fun company." So I said, "Okay, I'll come out," and I went down there. So the track at the time, would you believe, was called Iko. Here's the story.
Hey.
It's a fairy story. So we get in the studio, and this lovely guy, I think his name is Ian, and he just done this cover for Iko. And I saw all the people going in and going out. I was watching it all. I've been there for about an hour. And then it was my friend's turn to go, and she did the backing vocals, and she came out. And then the guy turned around and said to me, "Why don't you give it a try?" And I said, "Oh, no, I can't sing. I can't. I don't do that." And he said, "Well, you've got a great speaking voice." He said, "Just give it a try." So I went in there. He said, "You've seen what I'm doing. I've never been to a studio before, by the way. You've seen what I've done. You've seen how they work. Here's the lyrics. Go in there and do it." So I picked out what I thought was, good, and then I sang the bits and stuff. And then I came back and I said to him, "I told you I couldn't sing." He said, "Oh," he says, "on the contrary." He said, "You can." He said, "Why don't you just do the lead part?" I said, "The lead part?" I said, "I don't know what a lead part is." Anyway, I didn't know nothing. I was so naive. So he talked me through it. He said, "Go in and do the whole thing." By then, I'd been there about an hour and a half, already kind of got the flavour of the song. So I sang it down. And I'm good with my timing because I sing all the time. That's all I do is sing.
Yeah.
But I've never thought of myself as being a singer. Wow. And so I kind of liked the song. And then he gave me a cassette. And he said to me, do you think you can come back and as if we're going to do this whole thing properly? I was like, yeah, sure, okay. And I felt bad for my friend because she'd already gone in there to do the backing vocals, and I was asked to do the lead stuff, and I didn't even want to go there in the first place. So there's the story. But here's the fairy story part. So I get home, and my then boyfriend, Paul Jenkins, I said to him, you'll never guess what I've done today. And I threw the cassette at him, and he put it on. He said, is that you? He said, I didn't know you could sing. I was like, no, did I? The following day, I kid you not, his ex-girlfriend calls up. And where's his ex-girlfriend from? The Bodysnatchers. And she turns around and said to him, Paul, we're desperate. We need the singer of the Dusky Skin Persuasion.
Right.
Right. I don't think it's very PC to say that now, but he was saying it then. And he says, look no further. She's sitting next to me on the couch. And then Sarah Jane said, what does she look like? So he told her, he said, I've seen her. I've seen her at Gaz's Rockin' Blues, because I was a massive blues fan. I've seen it, and that was Rockin' Blues at the time. It was very, very popular as well.
Yeah.
And he's, because all the Stray Cat stuff was around and all them kind of things, And then she's perfect. I love the way she dressed. She did a perfect image. This and that. You sure she can sing? He's like, she can sing. I'm listening to it now. So she said, send her down. So I went to this audition and looked straight at the wall because I was too shy to look at them.
Yeah.
I had you won't believe it now, but it was true. And then next thing you know, out of all these people that they'd auditioned, I got it. I think I just got it for all the wrong reasons. Like, they liked the way I dressed. I had the kind of, I think I could be manipulated in some way, which they did a little bit.
It was an image thing, you think?
I think it was an image thing, because image is hard to wear. Image is hard to wear. And I used to wear things like, kind of mini skirts, long boots, that kind of like almost like new romantic frilly shirts coming with like velvet jackets and all kinds of stuff. So sorry, let me take this off because something's just popped up on my screen. I hope I don't delete everything. Yeah, and then and that's the way that came. And then next thing you know, I'm in the band.
That's incredible. I mean, that really is an amazing story.
That's an amazing. And
it really is.
No, it is, Giles, and it's a fairy story, and it really does make you wonder about life on a spiritual level. Yeah. Was this planned out for my life?
Mm.
When you think about all the steps that go on after that, and how I'm still here to tell the tale. But I did. And all the things that have gone through that, you've had the ups and the downs and the emotions and the everything else. And then you become, as you get older, a little bit more philosophical about life. And you
do
start looking at your past thinking, that was planned.
Yeah.
That is not just a fairy story. That thing was planned in my life, And it's funny, I'm writing a book right now called From Birth to Belle Star.
Mm.
And that is going to be a telling thing because it's going to explain everything.
Yeah,
it's explain absolutely everything. So
is it, and it is about that period, sort of from
that period is from my birth,
childhood through to
already. I've written the book already.
Surviving the Storm.
And Surviving the Storm. You're very clued up, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I've got one job to do. I might as well try and do it well.
Yeah. That's it. Well, I write songs and poetry. Yeah. I'm rubbish at everything else, but I can do those things. But so my second one is actually should have been my first one. It's an autobiography, and it's like called From Birth to Belle Star, and it will be all about the times from my birth, obviously, to the Belle Stars, and it's a story to be told.
Yeah,
I've got interest in a film, by the way. I think I might have some interest in somebody wants to do a film about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that would be really, kind of, interesting for people and sort of, another, sort of story to tell. And I think that that period of our lives, that there are so many kind of formative things going on. I know you had a sort of tough upbringing, but those are real kind of formative years, and how we, sort of react to those, how we remember them and then sort of come out come out of the other side, or use them as learning tools, if you will, for how to, how you're going to take your next steps in life.
Well, if you have the right mind, it's wisdom to apply
Yeah,
experience to the next stage of your life or the next project that you might pick up on.
yeah,
And I use those experiences as a tool in which to not only educate myself, but to educate others
yeah,
um, in many things.
yeah,
Many things. How did I come out of the traumatic life that I had as a child? Well,
yeah,
I did, and here's the terrible tale. And
mm,
it's the wisdom of experience that is available for anybody to dip into should
yeah,
they have gone through a similar situation themselves. Hence the reason why I wrote Surviving the Storm. I wrote this. I didn't mean to write it. I
yeah,
tell you how I wrote it. I was on the
mm,
gym every single day, and every single day I bring a book like this. I'll tell you exactly. I bring it everywhere with me like this, right?
mm.
And I fill up the pages of just things that come from my
Just
mind.
journaling.
Just journaling. And
Yeah,
I was on the treadmill, and it's really boring on the treadmill. I do like 30 minutes on the treadmill before I even go in to do the workout.
yeah,
And
yeah.
on the treadmill, I don't know if you ever noticed, there's this little kind of like thing at the front there, and you can jump off the treadmill, right?
Yeah.
And you put your 2 feet down on the side, and the wheel's going down, and you've
Good.
literally got 30 seconds to write whatever it is I do. So it's almost like playing a game with myself, and that's exactly what I did every single day. Then I
Mm,
go home and I type it
mm,
up on the book. And then as soon as that was typed, I'd cross out all the stuff that I'd written. And then the crossing out meant that it was on the computer. But what happened with that was it ended up being a book. Because whenever you're doing something productive and creative, you have this mind, your intuition starts helping you to grow legs with whatever it
mm.
is you've done. And I work very closely with my intuition, by the way. It's one of my biggest guides, one of my best friends. And I speak about it in the book. And, your intuition gives you the guidance to, form something really positive out of it. It could be negative, but for me, it's
Yeah.
always positive. And I ended up writing the book Surviving the Storm,
Were
which,
you?
yeah,
No, sorry. Go on.
which then, and the transition from that meant that I could then go out and do events to assist people that have gone through traumatic lives. I'm the ambassador for an organization that helps adults that have been sexually abused.
Mm,
And so, of course, in their minds, they're still back where they were as children because they've not understood how to get out of that mindset
yeah.
because they haven't been taught. And
Yeah.
so, when they get someone like me, who is not a counselor but has counseled herself, they're very interested in knowing how to do that because they no longer, as adults, want to be in the same situation that they've been in for years that's been holding them back. And
Mm,
so when I go out and do an event, I'm like a sweetener to
yeah.
to what the counselors do because I've self-counseled myself, and I have that ability to be able to resonate with an audience that has gone through something similar.
I think that 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 word resonate and almost like kind of being relatable, to who you're talking about, to who you're talking to. They know that you've been through some experiences, so it's like that kind of like, okay, I can relate to you, and I think as we were saying at the start, with the kind of like all this sort of information available to us, it's kind of overwhelming, and you find I think you want to find stuff that okay, that really, as you said, resonates with me. I think it's really
Mhm.
important these days.
I think it's really important if you've got somebody that's done that has had their experience, has come out the other
Yeah,
side, was able to talk about it quite candidly
yeah,
without any form of bitterness, because that isn't where you're at with that. Your whole, my whole ethos is raising vibration, not
yeah,
bringing people down, just
mm,
showing them a way that they can actually embrace that pain and use it as a tool to embrace, sorry, a tool to lift not only themselves up, but like I said to you before, to then, to teach others.
Teach
And
others.
when you're using your experience like that, you then, and I know it's a very hard thing to say, but I've done it, and lots of people can't. But when you show them how, and instead of saying, "Oh, this was bad, that was bad, this was bad," well, you can keep going down that spiral for the rest of your life. But you just say, "Well, shit, why did this happen? And what can I do with that experience? And could that experience that I've had not only be beneficial to myself, but to others?" Because it's a two-way thing. It has to be beneficial for you first, because you're the person that's healing you.
Yeah.
You have to heal you too. And so throughout it, what you find is you become a creative person, because you now have something that you've decided to do. You've made the decision to no longer make it about you, guys. You have a decision to make it good for other people.
Yeah.
So then you say, well, how do I do that? Well, then you go and you find others that have gone through that and have found a way in order to be able to assist the masses through their experience. And so basically my job is to give them ideas through my experience.
Did you have to, or find that you needed to, sort of heal yourself and sort of accept, what had happened before you sort of moved on to others? Almost like this sort of self-love and self-acceptance, and then think about others.
Yeah, I mean, there was a journey I went through before that. If you were around in the 80s, and I remember, I was like a kid in the sweet shop. I had a life of my early years were misery, and not all of them, but it was a little bit miserable. And actually, it was quite a lot miserable. But hey, let's not go down that road, because I'm still here today to tell the tale.
Yeah.
And that was the past, and this is now. This is the present, and I see I see the future as being bright for everybody in the whole globe. I'm totally positive about that, and I'm always looking for a silver lining. But in order to be able to have had the mindset the way that I have today, I had to go to rock bottom in order to be able to find the light. And though I'm not a religious person, I would say that I was spiritual in many ways, because I do believe in a higher being, and I do believe in intuition being my best friend. And so what is intuition? Well, it's another thing within that everybody's got to help guide them. And so I focused on the intuition being my best mate, and it strengthens me every day. I mean, intuition is a pain in the arse sometimes. Wakes me up at 3 a.m. and says, "Get that pen out. We've got something to write." I kid you not, that happens.
Yeah.
And it's usually at a time when I have to have a full night's sleep, and it's just like, "Oh, come on, man, you kidding me?
Give me a break."
Yeah, I mean, this is like, this is not a joke. This one was yesterday. This one was the day before. I mean, the intuition is relentless with me in terms of poetry, lyrics, and writing songs. So it's just can't remember what the question was, Giles. What was the question?
It was just sort of talking
I digress.
about. You're talking about that. You're saying that you had to go to sort of rock bottom to then.
So I had to go to rock bottom, and that rock bottom was round about the time in the 80s. Everyone was taking drugs. You can imagine, I went for it. And unfortunately, it took me away from my life for around about 7 or 8 years. And but I was not one of these. I'm kind of private in that I won't go to meetings because I found I did go to one, and I thought, well, why am I here with a bunch of people that have taken drugs and they're all talking about personal things within their life, which I don't particularly want to do that to people. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do this for myself, and I did. I found other ways in which to come up, and I'd made the decision that this is, I'm going to die. I'm going to die, and I knew it. And so I hit rock bottom, and then from there on, when I made that decision, and when I became well again, because it took a couple of months for me to become well again, around about 6 weeks, 2 months, I still had the mindset that I'm going to do this, but I don't know what to do. And then when you have that mindset, this is where the spiritual thing comes in, Giles. I'm absolutely convinced with it.
Yeah.
When you have a mindset that says, I'm going to make it, the universe conspires to help you.
Yeah.
And throws things in your way. And my sister-in-law at that time called me up and she said to me, Jenny, she said, have you heard the latest with the drugs are? To which I replied, well, why would I have heard about the drugs are? I'm not in that environment. She said, let me send you something. And apparently what was happening around about that time is the governments were saying that they would rather the children get taught by people that have actually been through this rather than the police and drug awareness, centers that had that spoke on an academic level, but not an experiential level. And the government had decided, actually, that's probably the only good bloody thing they've ever done. And thought, why not bring in those that have had the experience and see if we can do something with the children in that. Well, usually you'll find that most people that have been through the drug world, they're quite creative. So I was on it like a hot potato. I was like, yeah, this is like quite interesting. So what I did was I wrote a project, the 2-hour project for anyone that listened, like I would a song, intro, verse, chorus, middle, eight, and made it fun, but very informative. And then one day, because I was doing like a lot of poetry as well and cabaret stuff with a friend of mine, one day there was a teacher in the audience and she was gagging at the bit to meet me. And she was gagging at the bit to meet me. And I didn't know she was a teacher at the time. And she said, we need you. And I said, oh, great. Who are you? And then she said to me, I'm a teacher. We teach at Ackland Burley School. Well, I know Ackland Burley School. It's up the road from me in Archway. So I said, oh, that's very nice for you. What would you like me to do? She said, you just have to teach our children drug awareness. And because I'd done a lot of drug awareness poetry. Because when you're doing poetry, you write about yourself or you write about your experiences. And, of course, anything that you experience in life is always better to write about because you are able to approach it, give the audience the feeling. And the understanding of it. And she thought it was great. So next thing you know, in this. Oh, and by the way, this was the pull. She said, we pay very well. I said, when do we start? When do we start?
I think I know somebody that can help with this.
No, I said, hey, you know what? I did. So I said to my friend, right, this is our new job. So we did, and we went into the schools, and then we ended up doing, because my friend was a really good actor. So we ended up doing a massive, like a theatre thing in the Camden area, and it was a massive drug awareness thing, and the schools came along, and the place was run. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. And then what followed on from that, I started my own charity called S. Yeah, and then we kind of mentored some children and everything else. I only did for 3 years, but it was 3 years that got me on the ladder and made me and gave me an experience about not only how to teach, but how, important it was for me to be able to share that with young people, the prevention of. And because I was, and we were very popular. We were far more popular with the police coming in than everybody else because the children, this is what I'm saying with what you said earlier, the children prefer it if you've been there. And the first thing they would say is, you been there, miss? And I'd go, of course I have. And I can tell you stories, and of course they love that. They're all ears. Their eyes like saucers, and you've won them over just by being yourself.
Being yourself, yeah.
So with me telling you that, the best thing about that was I didn't sit down there regretting what I'd done. I was then able to embrace what I had done because in order to get respect from the people that you were teaching, you would, you'd have to kind of like, you'd have to have gone through that experience. And so then I was able to justify the why I did it, and that's why I talk about embracing whatever it is that that was self-abuse. I'd already been abused in the past, and now I'm already self-abusing myself. Well, why did I do that? Why did I do that? Well, there must have been a reason for it. Great. The reason was that I was prepping myself to be able to teach some of these people who, by the way, have gone on to radio, acting, all that kind of stuff, because of the programs that we created.
It's interesting. It's almost like a kind of like, sort of serendipitous moment. The out of the the hell of the sort of rock bottom. It's like, okay, I can't go any lower. And then there's this sort of spark that just sort of happens from somewhere.
Yeah.
And that then almost like becomes, this is what my future life is about, or at least the kind of the principles of using my experience to help others.
Yeah. And I was still able to apply music and poetry, as a tool. So we applied some of the arts, to help educate. And we used technology as well, like projectors and images and all this kind of stuff that resonated with their lifetimes. And it was just a 2-hour jam-packed program. And then we got funding, and so we were able to do larger things with it. And then I became community champion.
Yeah.
So for the works that we did. And then whilst I was there, I met a really nice person. In fact, the Scarman Trust gave me this accolade of the community champion. And then I met somebody there who feeds the homeless in Camden Town, Kentish Town, King's Cross, and throughout London. And we became friends. And the Scarman Trust turned around and said to me, Jennie, you'd be great as a person going out there. We'll give you the purse strings to like £250,000, £500,000. We'll give you the purse strings to go out and find these people, spend the money to, the £2,000 for each person in this certain area nationally that want to do something for their project. So I had all kinds of people coming in. So that money went real quick. And I helped them fill in the forms because, English is my first language, and I'm able to help people with the forms. Another thing that I am really kind of proud of, that I'm able to and grateful for. All my life, I'm so grateful to be able to write and and help people, because many people these days have problems with dyslexia, and they have problems with spelling, and they get daunted by forms. They get daunted by filling in forms and stuff. So that's another thing to be able to apply to assist people up the ladder.
I think that what you mentioned there about you is absolutely right. That there's a lot of stuff that many of us will take for granted. Like how to sort of hold yourself in an interview, for example. Whether it's just, kind of like a job interview, or write a covering letter, for getting a job. It's not. There are lots of people that sort of struggle with those for sort of various reasons, and I think having that sort of self-awareness that what you have might not be what somebody else has.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, it's hugely important.
And I've been gifted with, I think, this is where I say, Giles, that it's really important to embrace the experiences, because though my life was the way it was, what it did give me was compassion and empathy for others.
Yeah.
And so for me, that journey was so important that I went through those things. It was a prepping for what I've been able to do for other people. I've been able to write references. I've been able to do, to get young people back on the ladder, to just get them into work. I have neighbours around here and say, could you write my son a reference? I can do that with like doing up my shoelaces. Of course, I've had got quite a few. Yeah, I got somebody into, that I'm off of a court thing because of the way I wrote a letter. I got a friend of mine, goodness knows how many thousands of pounds that she was going to be without of some money because of the way I wrote a letter. I am guided, and I think it's a gift, and I think if you're given a gift, you use it wisely and you use it to help other people. And when it's larger than you, it's always successful.
Yeah. I think that those sort of traits of of empathy. Again, sort of these days, with everything kind of being so difficult, and we rely on each other more than I think more than we think, and perhaps more than we ever have done as well. We need each other.
We do.
And people are kind of have been what's the word, kind of split and kind of divided. The system has tried to kind of divide us, so having that kind of
Hey,
empathy.
that's one of my poems there. You should be kind of like dropping some intel on my poems. I'll take some from you. I nick everything from it. Yeah, any area I can get. That's exactly what I've been writing about. Division.
Yeah.
It's he's black, he's white, he's gay, he's not. I mean, come on, shut up. We're human beings. We need to get on with each other, and we're here to raise vibration. We're here to love each other, and we're here to harmonize with each other, and we're here to learn from each other.
Yeah,
it's all about love, Giles. And until we get that, we will never have it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you a little story. During the COVID period, there's a little fly in here. Sorry. It's a little rain fly, I think. How did we get through the
it's probably a fair reaction to saying the C word anyway, the COVID word, isn't it?
Well, is that PC these days as well? Okay, well, I should but still. But anyway, that's another thing because it's a bit too political. But what I will say is we had a lovely experience. So I'm working with Food for All. What happened was it was all on lockdown. Nobody was allowed out, everything else. And then my friend, Parashuran from Food for All, he's a really cool guy. He's a Hare Krishna guy. And he said, Jen, what are we going to do? And I said, about feeding the homeless. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, let's feed them. And he said, we need a place. So I called up my good friend, a guy called Knox. And he was in the band. He's a lead singer of a band called The Vibrators.
Vibrators, yeah.
He's a really good friend. And he's got a little charity shop around the corner in Parkway. And I called him up and said, I need your keys. And he said, yeah, you can have them, Jen, but can I know what for? He said, we need to feed the people, man. He says, I'm coming over right now. You can have the keys. Because they weren't using the building. The following day, literally the following day, so we set up 50 meals, just 50 meals, right? Picked clean they were, picked clean. Next thing you know, so then it progresses on from 100, 250, 500. Then we get groups that of people, of charities that have defunct. And but what the moral of the story is, the thing that you just spoke about is getting on with each other and everything else. You saw the compassion of people during that time more than you would any other time. People were desperate to get out, and we had a little story where all of a sudden when it was slightly opening up, and we're still out there blaring up the music and giving all the food out here, there, and everything else. There were hardly any cars on the road, but there would be the dog walkers. And the dog walkers, of course, they're going to know, well, you're the only people happening around here. Yeah. And of course, we had the love of the supermarkets. We had the love of the pub next door and other pubs around there that weren't allowed to open, no hospitality stuff, but they were concerned that their crisps and all these other things that they had within the place had the sell-by date going to come up. Yeah. So they said, give it to us. So they wanted to give it. So we were packed. You couldn't get a grain of rice in the place. And we were just giving. And there's something about giving that when you go home, it's so easy to turn the light off at night time because you know that you did something good for somebody that day. And you didn't do it for one person, you did it for many. But then what we did was we extended that and we said to the dog walkers, when they're asking us questions, what are you doing? We're like, well, we're giving out food to people, but of course they all wanted to volunteer because they just wanted to get out of the house. So I said, I tell you how you can do it. I said, this is how we do it. I said, you got a bicycle, if you haven't, doesn't matter. Just go and get a little trolley or whatever, go to your neighborhood, find out all the old people, the infirm people, anybody that can't get out, anybody that's scared, any families. If they need food, write it down. So tell us how much you've got. You bring your bags. We'll supply you with the bags. If you haven't got any, you go back and you share. You share the love.
Yeah.
Share the love with all the food that we've been given for free to share to the people. Picked clean, John.
Picked clean. Yeah.
Every single day. So, you know, so there really is something in that. When a crisis happens, people do come together. They do.
That's true. That is very true. How have you, you know, kind of handled your own resilience over your life? You know, in sort of coping with sort of different, you know, kind of situations that you sort of found yourself in.
There are so many, but I think just the one word is philosophically. And I have gone more for inner guidance rather than outside information. I do search for outside information, obviously, but you know, these days you can't tell who's telling the truth and who isn't. And I'm not paranoid. It's just that I do my own due diligence. I do, you know, understand that by looking within, the answers I get have always been successful for me and have always been pure. And there is no agenda when the answers to the questions that I'm asking come into my mind when I relax my mind within meditation.
So you were talking earlier about your, you know, intuition. So that's something that you rely on, that kind of gut instinct.
I feel totally strongly about it.
Totally strong.
My best friend.
Your best friend.
Best friend. We've all got it, you know. We've all got it.
How have you? Because I mean, I believe in it as well. What I've noticed, like with me, is sometimes there's sort of bit of tension or aggro between my desire to analyze things, and think about options, and then there's a gut that's saying no, you need to kind of go with this, and then there's the other side of me that's like, you need to be a bit cautious, you know, maybe don't, you know, kind of rock the boat, just have a think about it.
Yeah. Well, I know it's your guide, and then once you recognize, you're how much are you? 54.
54.
You're young. You're getting there. Anyway, you're young. You're spring chicken. But you're totally right, because there is this kind of like analytical mind that's like back and forward. But it's like your gut. You will know. You know, when in doubt, here's the motto: when in doubt, leave it out.
Yeah.
That is the thing. It's as simple as that. When in doubt, leave it out. And you know that your first choice is usually the one to go with.
Well, you're right. You are absolutely right.
Usually the one. It's the analytical mind that turns around and says, "Oh, but what if? Oh, never. And if this happens? Oh, no, forget that." No,
it's that kind of like protective thing in your brain. Is your brain's trying to protect you?
Yeah. But if you can go with the flow, then you've queened. Then you've won the war.
I guess sort of linked into that, your own, you know, sort of self-belief, you know, belief in yourself. Have you seen big changes in that over the years?
The belief in myself.
Was that never wavered?
Well, no, we have, because if you remember when I first started the Belle Stars, I had such low self-esteem.
Yeah.
And because of the way I was brought up, and you know, I was told by my mother that, you know, that I sounded ridiculous, and that I was ugly, and I had all these negativities thrown my way, and so that was my belief for many, many years. And I guess possibly one of the reasons why, you know, unconsciously I stepped into the drug world as a way in which to escape my own demons. Because when you're being thrown negativity in that way, then the demonic comes into the mind. And though you aren't privy to how much worse it's going to get for you demonically in the mind by taking drugs, it does happen. But when and I'd imagine that the reason for that is it lowers your vibration. So, you know, when you take drugs, it lowers your vibration. You're not of that mind. You're of another mind. You're of a temporary kind of demonic thing that you're doing with yourself. You're beating yourself up when you abuse yourself in that way. So therefore, there's no room for, you know, higher stuff. It's only hell stuff.
Yeah.
And then you find that you're addicted, and then you go down the spiral until you are hit rock bottom. And when you hit rock bottom is the time where you go, I'm either going to kill myself or I'm going to do this. And my decision was to do this.
Yeah.
And I've not looked back at it ever since, because I've helped an awful lot of people in the process. And I'm very, very, very grateful to be able to sit here and explain that to you. And I've done the things that I've done.
You've also you know, kind of related to that. You've also collaborated with a whole lot of people, you know, sort of over the years. You know, I'm thinking, you know, I mean, outside of the Belle Stars, but, you know, kind of like people like Adrian Sherwood, Doug Wimbish, you know, really sort of creative.
Oh, you've been doing your homework. Doug is a friend of mine.
Tell you what, there's no secrets whatsoever.
There's no secrets. Dougie Wimbish, oh, he's a lovely man. So is Adrian, you know. I mean, we're actually a family. Skip McDonald. We're actually a family. Skip was the one that told me to do a Scar album, a Pete and Tom album, and we had people on there, you know, and. I came in. I was at Adrian. I was at Skip's one day, and Adrian was there because he was around, and he said, "Oh," he said, "Oh, who's producing the album?" I said, "I haven't thought about that yet." He said, "Oh," he said, "What? You didn't think about me then?" I said, "Adrian, I can't afford you." He says, "Was I asking for any money?" So I said, "So I wasn't going to turn that down." So, but he's my good friend, you know, and he's a lovely, lovely man, very talented.
Yeah.
I mean, all three of them, incredible talent, and I am so blessed to know them. And I am, you know, I've done quite a few gigs with Adrian. Funny enough, you know, one day he'll call up and say, "Jen, you got your passport?" I'm like, "Where are we going?"
Where are we going?
We're going to where is it? Portugal or something like that.
Yeah.
And so we'd go there and we do these shows, and it was just, you know, things like that. Fantastic people to work with. But I work with punk as well, and I work with punk people. I've just done an album with a guy called Matt Sargent. He plays in Chelsea.
Yeah, I know Matt. Yeah,
he's a lovely. Oh, do you know? He's a lovely man. We've just done an album.
Brilliant.
I think what happened was he'd written an album. He's a very good songwriter, and I've known him for years anyway. And we've become very, very good friends. And he helps me out with the Harry Krishna stuff when we go and do these protests. That's another thing I do, by the way, as well. We do these political right-on protests, and we're leading the thing. And he comes and plays with us. He plays bass or guitar sometimes, and there we are in the streets, like playing political stuff and like Clash songs and all this kind of stuff. And so that's how I know him. And we've just done an album together. He'd written an album. Somebody was trying to nick it from him. He was a bit discouraged, so I said to him, "Look, you know, send me a couple of songs." I said, "You can get a few people on the album for yourself." I said, "I'll write a couple of songs with you. Send me the stuff. You know how quick we write." And next thing you know, I'm writing the whole bloody album. Wow. Jenny's brilliant. Can you do another one? I write with Martin from this keyboard player, the original from keyboard player from Bad Manners.
Yeah,
I wrote with everyone.
Yeah, I saw Matt actually at up in Blackpool at the Rebellion Festival, and he was talking. He was being interviewed for about, you know, his life with HIV.
HIV. He hasn't got HIV anymore, by the way. Do you know that?
Yeah.
He hasn't got it. Yeah. So it's curable. People didn't know
which is amazing. It was which is, you know,
he's
an
very
amazing
honest.
story that he's got.
He's very honest, and you know, another one a bit like Knox. Well, it's, you know, some of the nicest people in the music industry. He's a lovely man.
Yeah.
And we've just done an album with my old label mate, because he's got a studio somewhere on the coast. I don't know whereabouts it is, and it's his name is Dick, from a band called Dick Croppin, I think his name is, from a band called Tempo Tudor.
Yeah.
And he's my label mate. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So it was really like a reunion. I was like, I can't believe this is happening, and it was so lovely to see him.
Was he the drummer? Was he the
I think
drummer
he
in
was a
Test?
bass player.
Bass player. Yes, bass player. I think. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Lovely
Oh,
man.
amazing.
Lovely man.
Amazing. Oh,
Or
brilliant.
guitarist,
I mean,
I
what?
can't remember which one.
I mean, what I love about those, you know, the opportunities that they bring up, but also you know, kind of what you learn, you know, from people that you collaborate with.
Yeah.
You know, it must be an amazing experience doing that.
But it is. I mean, you know, and it's still going on. You know, I work with a girl called Elizabeth Westwood, and she was in a band called Westworld, and she
Yeah.
had like the thing Sonic Boom Boy. So what
Yeah,
happens is when I'm doing an 80s thing, her and I met up, and it was so uncanny because
Yeah.
here's the story. So we're waiting for the lead singer of the old what you call it. Stranglers to finish his bit because we're going in there, and then we've all been booked to do this thing called Let's Rock, and we're all waiting there, but there's one person missing, right, from our little kind of crew. I've never met her before, and she comes in all kind of like Ab Fab, like, you know, Patsy from Ab Fab, you know, hello darlings, you know, American, and she's windswept. She says, oh, by the way, didn't even say hello. She says, oh, by the way, she says, James says to send his love. Look, pointing at me, I said, who the hell's James? She says, your ex-boyfriend and my soon-to-be ex-husband. I just thought, I'm going to be friends with you for the rest of my life. That is an entrance. That is what you call an entrance. And we have ever since. And now we call Bad Barbie. Collectively, we call Bad Barbie.
Yeah.
And we've been doing a radio show at TWR, Totally Wired Radio, which is run by my very old friend, Eddie Pillar. And we've been doing that for the past year and 3 months. And we're going on to do other stuff. We go out do DJing and stuff. Yeah, it's all good.
That's incredible.
It's loads of fun.
There's loads of stuff going on.
That can't be fun whilst you're 65. Hey, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you're doing so much, and just you know, kind of keep sort of doing things. I mean, do you?
Get bored?
No, not. You just obviously not. No, just kind of keep doing things. I mean, do you ever you know, think about you know, risks? You know, sort of taking risks. Have you found that you're willing to take more risks as you get older?
Depends on what the risks are.
Yeah.
What kind of risks are you talking about?
I don't know. Just you know, when we kind of like, I don't know, just in generally sort of in life, I just sort of feel that, you know, sometimes as you can go one or two ways, can't you? You can think, well, I've had a life where I've not taken many risks, and now I'm free of sort of shackles, and you decide then that you're gonna like throw caution to the wind and just sort of do different things in your life, and then you can think, well, you know, if your personality is that you kind of like a little bit sort of cautious, then you don't do that.
Right. No, I think life is about taking risks, because you know, if I'm to look at Giles right now, you wouldn't be here today if you didn't take risks, would you? I mean, that's my question to you. Would you be here today? I wouldn't be here today if I didn't take those risks. If I said no to the teacher for Acton and Burley, if I said no to the Belle Stars, that was a risk for me. Remember, I was very shy. I had no confidence whatsoever in the whole world. And I thought I was ugly. Didn't think anybody would listen to a word I said, because that was the indoctrination I had as a child. And so that to me was a risk. I went out in front of an audience, never spoken in front of more than 2 people before, and went out there and did it. Petrified. That was a risk, you know. And as I go through my life, you know, and but then when you overcome that, shit, I did it. And so so then you go on to the next risk, which then brings you on to the next step of the ladder in terms of your own your own personal life. You go, well, I did that. I wonder if I can overcome this, you know? And I guess, you know, life is a series of risks that bring us to the point of where we are today.
I totally agree with you. I mean, you're right. I mean, you know, when I started this, I was thinking, you know, I mean, you know, my personality is I'm an introvert. You know, I had like incredible shyness when I was a kid, sort of similar to you. And it took me a while to, you know, I've still got it, but I've learned to live with it. And
Yeah.
You sort of deal with it, but then doing this was like, oh no, I can't do this. Who's going to want to listen to me or talk to me and stuff like that,
Well, I should have to say something. You asked some very good questions. I don't see why anybody wouldn't want to speak to you.
Well, this is
you asked very good questions, Giles. Don't you have no problem with that, my darling?
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that, and it's nice. It's really nice to hear that. Sorry, yes.
Hey, you know what I mean? No, I'm only kidding. No, I'm absolutely serious. You're asking very good questions. I've been interviewed so many times by so many people for so many years. And then, you know what kind of questions people are going to ask when they ask the first two. And you didn't ask the first two, so I already got that I should be paying attention to whatever it is you say. And it's very enjoyable.
It's like it was for me to start. It was a risk, because I'm thinking, to my sort of self-esteem that I'm just going to get a blanket like, no, I'm not. Why would I do that? And all that. That kind of thing. So you're right. It's the each sort of stage, each thing that we do, there are risks to take. But I guess, and also going back to what we're talking about with your collaborators or people that you've worked with. They're an encouragement as well. They'll encourage you to do it and give you the confidence to do it. And
I'm the one that encourages them.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. So they call me up. Yeah. I have many people that send me stuff, and if I don't like it, I'm extremely honest, because I believe that after the age of 50, you can actually, because remember, they're calling you up, and it's not to be a diva. It's to be it's to be comfortable within your own skin to say no. If something does not click with you, or or they're asking you, I won't do a cover track unless it might be for like charitable purposes or I really like a song. I say to the guys, "Oh, come on, guys! Everybody's you can do a cover. What can you do?" So if you want to send me something that you've done, I can help you create that.
Yeah.
I write. I've written quite a few songs from Adrian's back catalogue.
Yeah.
Adrian, of Adrian Sherwood stuff. He is not commercial.
Absolutely.
And so he'll say, Jen writes a catchy chorus. Because I'm good at it. That's what I'm good at. I write the catchy choruses, the funny, the funny lines and all this kind of stuff. Or I'll say to somebody, if I like the song, many times in Martin, for instance, from Ex-Bad Manners, he'll send me loads of stuff, and we've written quite a bit together. And he said, I said to him, "What's the concept?" Because I want his input. I've done another with a friend of mine from a band called Tourist Tracker, and they're lovely. I've done a few tracks with them, and I'll just say, "Okay, what's the concept?" And let's say on this particular one, he wants it in a film, in a play, which by the way I'm in. And so I said, okay, let's work with it, within what that scene is about, and I'll write about that, that within the context of that particular scene. So, am I digressing from the thing again?
It's fine, because that's totally what this podcast is about anyway.
Sorry.
You can kind of like go off in any sort of tangent, and it's still totally fine.
I should be writing what he said. Haven't been too bad so far, though. Usually worse.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Jennie, thanks so much. It's been terrific. I really, really appreciate it. It's been fascinating listening to you and
thank you.
Learning more about what's about your life.
Thank you. And thank you for asking some very good questions.
Oh, thank you. No, that's great. No, it's I just kind of like enjoy listening to and talking to people about their life and what makes them who they are. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I think people might enjoy the first book if they've gone through anything, and if they even want to find out a little bit about my life as well, and how I got out of this and stuff. Many people are hurting at the moment, Giles. It doesn't. It's a kind of great gift to be able to see how other people have discovered a way in which to jump out of that situation and then become the full person that they should have been when they were born, So
well, it's fun. I mean, in a way, this what this is about was kind of came out of me thinking about, what can people sort of do with their lives, from a, what sort of things do they need in their life to be able to sort of make the changes that they want? Because I think a lot of people do want, come to at various stages. At some stage, they'll want some change in their life. They'll, what they have maybe doesn't work for them for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, well, what do you need to kind of get through that? So what you've done with your book, in helping people to, to give them the knowledge, and understand what you've been through and how you've got through that, how you've then, moved on through your life, I think is super important. And the, doing it through the, as you said earlier, through that kind of experiential is the best way, without a doubt.
Giles, everyone's sitting on a gold mine. They just don't realize it.
Yeah.
And if they have the wherewithal to go out, not at first, they'll probably be too shy, but to go out and see how others have flourished as a result.
Yeah.
Then it will inspire them to then go back home and look at their lives. And then on a piece of paper, just go, I don't want that. I want this. This was good for me. What can I do with that?
Yeah.
And then create, like an alchemist, something from the dirt and turn it into gold. That, my friend, is the key of life.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the show, and I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you'll tune in for the next episode. In the meantime, it would be really awesome if you could rate and review the show, and also share it with any friends who you think might enjoy it.